Hi, everybody. Oh, I'm so glad to be here. So first off, thank you to David McGuffey for having the vision to do this today. I love elder law attorneys. They are like the sweetest, smartest people all rolled into one. So you are lucky to have somebody like that in your community. Thank you, David. Yes, that was my first Chick-fil-A. It was really good. I can't believe I've never had one, but we only have a few in Los Angeles and they're far away. So it's a long drive and we have traffic. You don't have traffic here. And so do you know what a bioethicist is? I'm glad I came. A bioethicist is the person that resolves healthcare conflicts in hospitals. So when you're there and the doctor is not honoring what your mom would have wanted, the advance directive says this and they're saying, no, we're going to do that. Or the family's at war and they're fighting with the doctors, or there's nobody to speak for the patient because they've outlived all their relatives. Anytime it's a mess in a hospital, you are allowed to access the ethics committee or the bioethics committee. Every hospital in America is supposed to have one. They're not all super, but they do exist and they're there to help you. And most of the time, they're good at working behind the scenes. They can pull aside the doctor and say, hey, you're going against the law here. You need to do the right thing. Or they can send the chaplain in to sit with the family and help them process their grief and struggles. We're really good at solving things. The way you usually find us is you pick up the hospital phone, dial O for the operator, and say, I'd like to talk to the ethics committee. Once in a while, people have told me that they've done that, and the operator says, it's just for the doctors. And then you say, that's not true. Because the Joint Commission, the accreditation organization that keeps hospitals in line, says it's for everybody, okay? So if you have a problem, you call me and I'll tell you how to get through to them, okay? I've also been a family caregiver, and I think that's a lot of what I'm going to talk to you about today, both how to navigate the hard stuff, the ethical issues, but also how to understand when to step in, how much to step in, should I step in? I took care of my mom when I was 21. I'm 52 now. She had a massive stroke. And then I took care of my aunt with heart disease, another aunt with multiple sclerosis, and my dad with vascular dementia. And then I had a break. And then I took care of another aunt who has COPD and has been having a lot of falls. And recently I've been taking care of my brother who had a traumatic brain injury from a car accident. Somebody was texting, didn't even know they were about to hit him, and smacked him, and he hit 2 more cars. Please don't text and drive, because in a moment you change someone's destiny. Somebody has changed our entire family's destiny. So you can imagine I've done a lot of this caregiving. I wonder how many in here are family caregivers? Hi, everybody. You guys are heroes to me. Thank you. How many of you are professionals? Love you guys. And how many of you are both? Yeah, you do it all day long and then you go home and you take care of people. It's a lot. And I remember at one point, after my 4th person I was taking care of, my aunt with MS, I remember I was standing outside of my house talking on the phone, and it was more bad news, because you know it keeps coming, right? One more crisis to manage. And my phone doesn't get good cell service in the house. I'm on the sidewalk. Yes. No. No. Oh, no. Oh, okay. I'll be there. Because we show up, right? And the next thing I know, I was on the ground. I think I shattered. I didn't faint. I just laid down. I'd had enough. And I remember laying there, looking up at the sky, saying, this isn't good. And I laid there and I said, I wonder how long I'm going to lay here. For a while. And I was still laying there. Do you know why I got up? Because I thought that you might be driving by and you'd see this poor woman on the ground. Your heart would start beating. You'd pull over. You'd call 911. You'd start CPR. I wasn't dead, but you'd start CPR. And I didn't want to put you through it. I worried more about a stranger than I did myself, because I am a caregiver. And that's who we are. We're always worried about others. And that's if we're professionals or family caregivers. So I know that it's hard. I want to give you tools and ideas and support and options today so that you will feel stronger, braver, empowered, confident, so you don't end up on the ground. The other thing I want you to know is there are people in this room that are experts that you can turn to. You are not alone. We all need to be doing this together. So I encourage you to take what I teach you today and use it to feel better about being a professional and family caregiver. So one of the first things we're going to talk about today is, should I step in? Is anybody wondering, is it time for me to take away the car keys? Is it time for me? Yeah, I get a lot of those questions. Is it time for hospice? Is it time? So let's talk about this. The way I look at it, and we're going to talk about more serious capacity issues in the second section. The way I look about it is, can the person connect the dots? Can this person have enough capacity to hold on to knowledge all at the same time and to think out into the future? Right? Have you ever seen these pictures? Kids, you have them in coloring books, right? Where you connect the dots, and at first you don't know what the picture will be, but then you connect the dots and you see the big picture. This is what doesn't always happen with people that have dementia or any kind of cognitive issues. They may be able to talk to you, they may be charming and delightful, but they may not be able to understand and think out into the future. If this happens, then this would happen, then that would happen. Right? And so for me, this gives me a lot of guidance, and it really helped me with my dad. My dad had vascular dementia, and his mental capacity varied from about 5 to 7 years old mentally to around 12 years old mentally. He kind of fluctuated. And there were times when I would call him and say, "Dad, I'm on my way to pick you up for lunch. I'll be there in 15 minutes. And I would get there, and you know what he would say? "I didn't know you were coming," right? He couldn't hold on to the first dot. Viki is on her way for 15 minutes. There were days, though, when I'd get there and he'd say, "Yay, you're here. Where are we going to go for lunch?" Right? He could hold on to some knowledge. But I will tell you that never, not once, did he ever say, "Viki is on her way. We're going out to lunch. I should put on my shoes." Right? He couldn't say, if this is happening, then I need to do this. Right? Now, we don't wear coats here, and I need my coat. California, we wear sweatshirts. But if we were here, and get my shoes and my jacket. That's the problem. When we're thinking about danger, we're not thinking, can the person make a decision right now? Do you want chocolate ice cream? Do you want vanilla ice cream? Right? That's a quick, easy decision. I need them to understand, if there's a fire, I got to get out of the house and then call 911. Right? That's that executive functioning that we talk about. How do we think out into the future? So I will tell you, though, with my dad, he really was charming and delightful. His doctor never knew that he had dementia because he could tell a joke. He was cute. He was one of those older men that's really cute, right? And he never showed it because in the moment you would have thought he was fine. But he really couldn't think, and he couldn't remember, and he couldn't make value judgments. And so he did not have capacity. Right? So luckily, the tools that I have from bioethics are going to be really useful to us today. I'm going to teach you my tools, and then they'll be yours, okay? So before we talk about incapacity, we're going to talk for a few minutes about how much danger a person can live with if they have mental abilities, but they choose risky behaviors. Does anyone have any relatives that do foolish things? Risky, dangerous? My brother with a brain injury, I thought something would happen to him because he's one of these people who will ski down mountains and drive fast. I mean, he does all those sorts of dangerous things. That's not what got him, but he loves risk. So here are the rules. I want to show you the rules because then you'll know when you step in and if you should. So the rule is, we're talking about somebody that does have capacity, okay? This is not someone with dementia. This person in your family is choosing poorly and you want to change their behaviors. Here's the rule. It's a philosophical rule. It's also a legal rule. People with autonomy have the right to make their own decisions. They have the right to live their lives, choose their course for how their life will play out. Even those family members that we think are foolish, as long as they have capacity, they have the right to make a wrong decision. I have to say this a lot to doctors, because they'll say to me, why is this patient doing this? Or why did they write it in their advance directive? I'm like, excuse me, they have the right to make a wrong decision because, right, their mind is clear enough. It's going to change. They don't have those same rights when they lose their ability to think. With autonomy, there is a limit to this. It's a limit that comes from a famous philosopher called John Stuart Mills, and what he says is people can live their life until the moment where their decisions create danger to others. Not just any kind of danger, but significant risk to others. Okay? So I can sit in my house and I can drink and I can drink and I can drink. Even though it's killing my liver, my circulatory system, my cancer risk, I can harm myself as much as I want when I have capacity, even though it's killing my family to watch. But the moment I step out of my house and go to my car, now I'm at a danger to others, significant danger. Or if I hit my spouse or hurt my children or neglect them because of my drinking. So the rule is, we're going to be clear about capacity. We'll talk about incapacity next. When a person has capacity, they have the right to live their life all the way to a lot of danger. The state, the government says, we can step in and arrest you or take away your children because you're hurting your children because you're causing significant harm to others. That's the harm principle. So I have a relative, she's in her 40s. She has a horrible version of adult onset juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. She's had both knees replaced, both hips replaced, and she's getting her shoulder replaced. It's a really terrible disease, and she has a hole that's about this big in her bathroom floor. Right? And I'm like, can I help get that fixed for you? Can I bring somebody in? She's like, no, it doesn't bother me. Now she's using a walker. She can barely move. Full capacity. She has the right to live in danger. But if she loses capacity, what's the first thing I'm going to do? Fix that hole, right? Because then I get to step in. So for me in bioethics, there's guidelines and there's boundaries. You can make your decision. Now you've lost capacity. Now we've got to do something different. I'm always going to respect you. I'm going to dignity, all of those other things. But when do I step in depends on this. So when we have a senior who doesn't want to use his walker, do you know people like that? Oh my goodness, that was a lot of people. Yeah, my dad didn't use his walker, not because he was trying to be difficult. He literally couldn't remember to grab it. He'd sit on the bed, it would be right there, he'd stand up and he'd fall. Because he couldn't say, I'm about to stand up, I fall a lot, I should grab my walker. He couldn't do that. But there's a lot of people, why don't they use their walker? Why? It makes me look old. It's awkward. I don't like it. I don't need it. There's all sorts of reasons. So if the person has capacity, right, they can say, I don't use it. But I want to inspire these people to do better. And because they can think, I can talk to them. And what I share with them is something from one of my favorite authors, David Solie. He has an amazing book called How to Say It to Seniors. I've listed it in your resources, but his name is David Solie. And his book literally is, say it this way, don't say it this way. And it's all about speaking to people that have capacity and inspiring them to choose what you're offering. All those things you're trying to help them with, getting them to buy in. So I'm going to teach you a couple of his principles because I find this really helps me when I'm working with people. He says that seniors have 2 developmental stages, control and legacy. Control is really important, right? I'm losing control of my body. I'm losing control. My mind is different, right? I think Dr. Rabin spoke about developmental stages, like a baby, right? As we age, we have certain things we can do at certain stages, and then Alzheimer's, we reverse that. Well, those same developmental stages that we kind of look at as normal and natural in a child, we also have those stages for healthy seniors. So a senior, as they're aging, they want to feel like they still have control. But what happens? Some well-intended adult child marches into their house and says, you need to move. You shouldn't be living here. I think you need to go and live in that place over there. Now let's hurry it up. How would you like it if I actually did that to you right now? You wouldn't like it. You'd be like, you're not the boss of me. Why are you telling me what to do? What? Hello, I'm your mother, right? That's what happens is because adult children start getting worried and they start trying to take over. Both of those things are normal and natural, and I'll show you how this plays out. The other developmental stage, though, is legacy. If the person feels like they have some control over their life, they then want to have legacy. And that's all that end-of-life work. Will anybody remember me? Did I make a difference in this world? Did I even matter? What was the purpose of my life? Does anyone work in hospice? People are asking these legacy questions, right? And the neat thing about these legacy questions is they need to be done, but they usually can't be done until the person still feels like they have control, right? And so here's what happens. A healthy senior begins to slow down. And they're slowing down not because they're physically changing necessarily, they might be, or cognitively. They're slowing down because of the developmental stage that says, it's time to ponder and process my life. Instead of it being in a hurry, I've got to change the world, I've got to go get another job, I've got to do this and that, they're reflecting. So they're a little quieter. They're not in a rush. They are taking the time to think about their life. And if you're the professional meeting with them, you come and you're like, okay, well, let's talk about insurance. Let's talk about housing. Let's talk whatever it is. And you kind of are on a time agenda, right? You have other clients to see, and you're trying to help them in a hurry, and you think you're having a conversation. You're talking and talking and talking, and where's their mind? Pondering and processing. They're sitting there, and you think they're listening, and this is what they're doing. I wonder what it would have been like if my brother hadn't died when he was a young boy. What if we were both old men? What would that be like to have my brother here with me? They're not listening. So when you're going in to talk to a senior, you want to make sure that you're engaging them that, is this a good time? Do you want to talk about this? Right? Because they have the capacity. So when you're going to talk to them about danger, it's a valid conversation. Maybe you should get some help with this. Maybe you should use your walker. You have to frame it in something that matters to them. Now, people who are middle-aged, that's me. I know the day I became middle-aged because I had this weird switch that went off in me. It was about 7 years ago. I'm 52, so at 45, people who are middle-aged are in a hurry to achieve and do and go and get everything done as fast as possible. I think we know time is short. So it's like, I've got to come here, I got to do this speech, I got to help the world, I got to do that. It is exhausting being in middle-aged, right? I got to make sure my mom is safe, I got to pick up the carpool, I got to do this and this and this. Personally, I can't wait to be a senior. I am so tired. I just want to ponder and process. But see, both of them are natural and normal. Neither of us are wrong. This is where I need to be right now, is getting things done. Later on, I'll have that other stage. But this is where conflict happens. We have that adult child that's like, we got to get you moved. And that's the faster we can get, can I take you to the tour? And then I got to go pick up carpool, right? And you're like, hey, what's the rush? Right? And so when I'm very good at explicitly saying things to people. I don't leave this unsaid. I literally teach this to adult children and to seniors. I literally teach it to them because then they understand that neither of us are wrong. We're just on a different speed, right? And it really helps. And one of my favorite things that David Solis says, and I've written it out for you, is that we need to address the issues of control, especially when we're talking about danger. We need to address them, but in a way that the senior can hear it. Now, I just realized the senior word is such a problem. I got AARP recently. That's awesome. They have travel discounts, so I'm a senior. And then some people are, and if I use that word for someone who's 50, they usually really don't like me. Versus a senior who's 80, versus a senior who's 100. I'll do the best with my language. I know. Please don't let me offend you because you're young. I know. It's okay. All right. So when we're talking to somebody who's in that developmental stage, which is actually the older senior, we want to say to them, I want you to use your walker. Please, Dad, please use your walker. And if I just go in and say, if you don't use it, you're going to fall and you're going to hit your head. That's what we usually say. Valid points, but it's the how you say it. So here's what he says. You explain it like this. The first thing you say is, Dad, this is your choice. Use your walker, don't use your walker. I'm not the boss of you. It's your decision. So is he listening? He hasn't rejected me. He hasn't pulled away. He hasn't gotten defensive. It's your decision. Yeah, it is. Then I say something like this. I don't say but. Because if you say but, you know what it means? That what you just said is not true. You're going to hear this in your own voices for the next few days. Like if I say, I love you, but, right? You hear something. Versus, you know what? It really concerns me because I want you to be using your walker because I don't want you to lose control, right? So here's how you say it. I do worry, or it does concern me. Don't say but. It concerns me because in the short term, this is your decision. In the long term, you may be sacrificing long-term control. The magic words, sacrificing long-term control. Because if you did fall, you hit your head, broke your hip, you'd have to live somewhere that you wouldn't like, eat the food that you wouldn't like, you would lose so much control over your life. And then emotionally, physically, verbally, you let it go and you say, of course it's your decision, and you back off. And this kills adult children, right? Because what do they want to do? I tell them, you've got to back off. And they're like, well, I'll call her tomorrow and find out. If you call tomorrow, okay, what did you decide? That means it wasn't their control, right? So when somebody is cognitively healthy and you want to talk about danger, important to do it. I have no problem with it. Phrase it in this structure. Give them control. Let them know it does worry you. You might lose long-term control. It's your decision. I've used this so many times. This little formula works beautifully. I'm going to give you one more technique, and then we're going to go back to incapacity. This is a mediation technique, and I truly love this. This is a time when it's called separating the person from the problem. So we have this gentleman who doesn't want to use his walker, right? And you're going to say, yeah, of course, this is your decision. And the family's sitting there going, but, right? So separating the person from the problem means we're putting all of us on one side, all of us, and we're looking at the problem over there. And I say it just like this. How are you and I, how are the three of us going to solve that falling problem? I put the problem over there. It's not inside of him, it's over there. And I don't put his name over there. How are we going to solve Bob falling? Because now he's part of the problem. How are you and I going to solve the problem? Now we're both looking at it. We can start brainstorming. We can start figuring things out together. It works really well. It's a little mediator technique that we use that it just helps because now all of a sudden we're not butting heads. My idea, your idea, my idea, your idea. If you feel like you're in this butting head part, flip it to this. And it may sound awkward. Sometimes that falling problem, that medicine not getting in your body problem, just don't put their names over there, okay? All right, so those are my tricks for dealing with danger when the person can negotiate that with us. So now our obligations change when the person lacks capacity. And so we've got to figure out when to step in. Now, I was a very good caregiver. I am pathologically helpful, as you can probably tell. And back then, this is about 16 years ago, I didn't know what I know now. And I got a call that my dad had fallen and hit his head and was on his way to the emergency room. And as a good family member, I always go to the ER. You never send somebody who needs help by themselves. You go if you can. So I drove an hour. I'm there with my dad. And luckily, he's kind of big, so he kind of bounced. It was okay. He didn't really hit his head hard. Everything's okay. Take him home. He lives with his sister. All is well. A couple weeks later, I get a call again. Your dad fell. He's in the hospital. He hit his head again. And I went to the hospital. I'm with him. Luckily, he's not really hurt. This is the embarrassing part. I don't know how many times this actually happened. I think I'm going to own up to twice. It might have happened 3 times because I was in denial. Do you have family members that are in denial? You keep saying to them, but mom's not okay. Your brother is not okay. I was totally in denial because I didn't live with him. And his sister had been covering for him, right? All sorts of things had been happening, but nobody was telling me. And so I remember sitting in the hospital emergency room and thinking to myself, this isn't good. My dad keeps falling. I should do something. I think he's in trouble. Yay, I woke up, okay? And I started to implement a plan. Now, I'm going to show you throughout today how that plan worked, where I failed and where I did well. But denial is really hard. So I'm going to show you how to talk to somebody about denial. Because again, if we can help them get past their denial, maybe we could actually make some good changes. So this is my 5-step process to help the person get out of denial. So this is especially helpful for you social workers in the audience. Hi, you guys. Love you. I always tell people, talk to the social worker. They'll help you. Okay, so you don't actually have to use all these steps. You can kind of jump in where you think it's a good idea. You definitely need to use 3 and 4, okay? But I'll show you how we play it out. Now, I will tell you that to get somebody out of denial may take a few conversations. You cannot rush this process. The way this formula works, it helps the person kind of pace the conversation at the speed they're able. Okay, so I'll show you how this goes. The first step, and I use this for so many conversations, it's called normalizing. Normalizing is when you say, so many people tell me they worry about the same thing. You wouldn't believe how many families I've met with that have asked me that. You wouldn't believe how many patients are worried. When I say so many people, it doesn't feel personal. It's not like, well, yeah, you're having this problem. Versus, I think a whole room full of these people. Yeah, we're all here because we're all struggling. It softens it. It decreases the emotion. So I use normalizing in all sorts of conversations. And the next thing I do is I introduce the idea of denial gently. I don't usually use the D word yet. Nobody wants to hear bad news. Nobody wants to face that maybe they need to take away the car keys. Dad hit 2 cars just this week. Nobody wants to face this because I'm acknowledging what is true. Of course, I need them to. I'm about to get them there, but for the moment, I get it. It's hard. And then I move into this next step. So let me ask you, is denial good or bad? Who thinks it's good? Denial is good. Yes? You think it can be both? Okay, tell me why you think it's good.
Okay, if you're dealing with an Alzheimer's patient and, they want to go visit their mom and you make up some story and you're denying what's going on right now, it can be good, it can be happy. It doesn't have to be so bad.
Okay, so you're saying denial can be good because maybe you don't want to face what's hard at the moment, and it's just easier. It's not causing a lot of harm.
Right.
Right? So denial can absolutely be good.
Right.
And I will tell you that denial is actually a psychological coping strategy. Denial is our friend. When you first get really bad news, somebody's died, I have cancer, whatever it is, when you're in denial, it's because you don't want your brain to explode. Seriously, the body protects us. When the news comes in, you get glimmers of it. I think I have, no, I don't know. And you hide in denial until you're ready to accept it. I explain this to people. Again, I'm very explicit with them. I'm going to be like, you know what? Most people, when they first hear bad news or have to have these hard conversations, they don't want to do it. I'll say the word denial. They want to be in denial. And it's normal. Who wants to talk about this hard stuff? Because I'm also giving them permission to forgive themselves. Because if they've been in denial for a long time, it's hard to say, I've been in denial too long and bad things have happened and now I'm out. I'm just giving them permission. Who thinks it's bad? Denial's bad. He won't make you talk out loud. Some of you back there, yeah. I think denial's very dangerous. So I do the short-term versus long-term, right? Short-term control versus long-term control. In the short term, totally makes sense. Who wants to face this hard stuff? Then I change my tone of voice. I change my energy. I don't say but. It's really bad, though, in the long term, because if we don't see that he's falling over and over again, if we don't see that he hit 2 cars, if we don't take him to the doctor and he has chest pain, that could be dangerous. That could be bad. And then I usually acknowledge short-term denial, pretty normal, appropriate. Long-term, dangerous and bad. I have a friend who's a colleague that works with the aging community, and she has let her mom light the house on fire 3 times. That's denial. That's how powerful it is. And she knows better, right? But she makes excuses. Oh, mom just kind of forgot. Mom just kind of, she knows her mom has Alzheimer's, but denial is this powerful. So when doctors say to me, oh, just get in there and get the DNR signed and just convince them. It's like, good luck, right? But here's my secret weapon. The secret weapon is the idea of disbelief. It's another psychological coping strategy. We have denial, and then a step away from that is disbelief. And it's something we don't talk a lot about, but it's helpful. Because I want to know, do they wish they could be in denial, but they really do understand? And I ask this as an if question, and I structure it just like I've written. If blank were true, and then I offer 2 choices. If blank were true, and the reason I say if is because I want it to be hypothetical. I don't want to say, it's happening. They're not ready for that. If this is true, and then I give them 2 choices because I'm trying to force them to interact with the conversation. Okay? So I'm sitting at the bedside. This husband does not want to believe his wife is dying. She's dying. And after bonding, trust building, blah, all that, right? Blah, blah, blah. Sorry, that came out wrong, didn't it? I'm real. No, because what? Tick-tock, right? We're in the hospital. Time is money. Case managers are like, hurry, get them out there. It's a horrible way the healthcare system is now. It's terrible because denial, bad news, we don't go fast, right? Okay, so I'm in there, and eventually I'm going to say, if your wife were to die, would she want to stay here in the hospital, or would she want to go home with you? If I get the brick wall of denial, she's not dying. I don't know why everyone says this, get out, because they'll kick us out. Denial is in the room. We're not getting through today. But usually I get disbelief. No, I don't want him to die. Oh, but you think he's dying? No, I don't want her to die. No, you think she is? Oh, but I want her to go home with me. Oh, and they start doing the disbelief dance. I do have to step in. I don't want to step in. I do have Alzheimer's. I don't want to have Alzheimer's. Disbelief means they're not in denial. it gives you an opening, okay? Another way you can get in is to ask them this question. Does it ever cross your mind? Because if it's crossed their mind, it has crossed their mind, right? A quicker way to do this, and it depends on how emotional the person is, you can ask them to have the conversation for a few minutes. You know, I know, this is so hard to talk about. Nobody ever wants to talk about this. So many families I work with, normalize. Do you think you could be brave and for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, we could talk about some of this serious stuff? And then for the rest of the day, I don't want you to think about it. Could you step into the scary with me and then retreat? Most people will say yes, but be respectful. Watch the time, because whatever amount of time you asked for, at the end of it, say, you know what, that's 10 minutes, we can stop. They'll usually say, no, let's keep going, right? It's a nice little way to get in there, because we can't begin to help people manage danger if we can't get past their denial, right? The lady that lets her mom light up the house. If your mom were to set the house on fire, would you want to do something before or after, right? I'm going to have to be clever, but I'll do it. You can always ask a second if question, but don't push it, because you'll shove them back into denial. Okay, so this is one of my favorites. This is the question I'll say to the person, well, do you think they're in danger at home? And they'll say, only some of the time. Right? Some of the time is one of the most dangerous answers. Anybody here taking care of a loved one with a cognitive issue? Are they okay to stay home alone? All the time? Some of the time? When the some of the time question comes up, we need to talk. So I got a call from these two sisters in Los Angeles, and I will tell you, I adore these two ladies, because here's how they introduced themselves to me. We don't really like each other. Actually, we don't get along. But our mom has really bad Alzheimer's. She's wandering out on the street and getting lost. And we know that we have to work together, even though it's hard for us. Wow, that was incredible, right? For them to have that insight and to say it's worth it. We've got to be a team on this. Truly incredible. I adore these two ladies. And so I started this conversation. When somebody says she's okay some of the time, well, I'm going to ask a couple of these first questions, but I have to be very careful not to sound flippant, because let me tell it to you. Do you know what times today she'll not be okay? Now, I ask it because I really am sincere, because people do sundown, right? They're okay in the morning, they get worse at night. There really can be some fluctuating, or my dad, mentally he's 7, now he's 12, right? He's all over the place. So, but I want them to start hearing their own discussion. It's not what I need to hear, it's what they need to hear. So, do you know what times or which days this week? Well, we only have someone come into the house to take care of her on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Oh, that's great. How about Tuesdays and Thursdays? Does she have bad days on Tuesday? You see what I mean? I'm exploring this with them. I don't push, we explore. I do the, if this happens, then this happens. If there were a fire, would she be able to get out of the house? That's usually where it breaks down. No. Oh. And at that moment, that's usually when I have to get very sentimental and caring, because I am caring, I'm kind. That's my name. Okay, but I have to remember that the moment the person realizes that their person is worse, for some of you today, after we go through some of these tools, you may realize, my husband's not doing as well as I thought. That's when I wish I was sitting beside you and I could hold your hand and say, it's kind of heartbreaking, right? Because it's a hard moment to hear that she's not okay. So it was interesting. We got to the point where they believed that she needed some help because she was in danger, and we started building a plan, and I taught them some other tools, and all of a sudden, throughout the conversation, the one sister who had originally called me, she kept backing off. I know we should do this, but do you really think we should do this? But I don't want it. She was in disbelief. She wanted it not to be true. And I said to her, you know what? And here's the sentence. We can't take a chance that the danger will happen on one of her bad days. And she's like, yeah, you're right. And then a few minutes later, are you sure we have to do this? Do we really have to get home health in there? And do we really? And so I said to her, go get a piece of paper and write it down. Do you agree with me that this is important? Yes. Write it down, put it in your purse. And when you have self-doubt, am I doing the right thing? Right? Because most families want to do the right thing. They want to be respectful. I don't want to take over. It's my mom. It's my husband, my partner. I can't take a chance that he won't be okay on one of his days when I'm not there. However you want to say it, keep it with you. I keep little mantras with me to remind myself to be strong in situations. It can really help. I asked her throughout the months that we worked together, I'm like, do you ever refer back to that? She goes, oh yeah. Because it's a tool. The next thing that helped her were these next two tools. And these are some of those bioethics tools I was telling you about. This first one is called the shared decision-making model. And what it says is people can have some control and power in their life based on their mental age, right? So the higher their mental age, the more power and control they have. As their mental age goes down, they have less power and voice in their life. This is fabulous. It gets people out of denial. I have had geriatric care managers say that this has changed everything for families when they understand these next two tools, because it gives you a way to measure, especially when things are changing. So how do we figure out mental age? How many people in here who are taking care of someone with a cognitive issue, can you leave your person home alone? Yes, you can? Okay, then I would say that your person is around 12 years old or older. The reason I say that is that's usually the age when you can leave a kid home alone, okay? Is that how it is in the state? Do you know what the age is? Why do they let 12-year-olds stay home alone, but they don't let 8-year-olds stay home alone? Can they connect the dots? Can they have good judgment, right? How many of you have people that are less than 12? Yeah. All right, so I always start out with the can they stay home alone question. It's not written down, but that's where I start. Can your persons, the three of you, can they make a sandwich? All three of you are no. All right, so you guys help me. About what age do kids make a sandwich? How old can a kid be? They can feed themselves. They can make a sandwich. Throw out some numbers. Holler. 6, 5, 3. It depends on the sandwich. Seriously, if it's a piece of bread and cheese and you go like that, that's a sandwich. 2-year-old can do that probably. Versus, can they go find all the ingredients and take a knife and cut it? Would you even give them a knife? No, right? Because yours are younger than that, okay? A friend of mine whose mom has... her husband has Lewy body dementia, but she works in this industry. She said that one day after she consulted with a family, she's walking out the door, and it's on one of those apartments that they have an outside walkway, and she just peeked into the kitchen as she was leaving, and this person that has a cognitive issue, she and the person that hired her, they're leaving together, and do you want us to make you a sandwich? No, you're okay. And this is what the person with dementia did in the entire kitchen. They just walked around in circles. They knew they wanted something. They couldn't remember bread, cheese. There's a lot of steps. Like people that stop being able to do their recipes that they've always cooked, it's that steps, right? It's what do I need? Where do I find it? What do I do when I get it? That's a lot of thinking, okay? So when I'm talking about mental age, I will tell you I never, ever, ever call it that person is a child. I hate saying we're parenting our parents. For me, that feels disrespectful because my dad is a grown man. My dad served in World War II. And just because he has the needs of a 5-year-old, the abilities of a 5-year-old, he is not a child. He's a man who needs help. So that's how I phrase it. And so in bioethics, we use these different ways of looking at it. Are they 0 to 6, 7 to 13, or 14 to 17. This actually comes from Pediatric Ethics. That's why I wanted to let you know, even though they come from Pediatric Ethics, these aren't children, of course. These are adults we're talking about in this room. People that are 14 to 17 mentally, they have a lot of power and control in their life. And I will tell you, even at children's hospitals, there are children in that age group that make all their own medical decisions. Because they have so much mental understanding about what's happening, they can make their choices. I don't know. I mean, if someone has a little dementia, see, if they only have a little dementia, you don't just take away everything. You don't take over everything. You just adjust the plan a little bit. But if they're 0 to 6, what should they be in charge of? Very little, right? This tool works beautifully unless you're one of those people that, and you probably know people like that give their little kids too much power. They say to Susie, Susie, you're 3 now. Should mommy buy a car? Really? They don't have that kind of thinking. They're like my dad. They can argue. They can tell a joke. They're charming and delightful. That doesn't mean they can think out into the future. What does buying a car represent? Do we have money? Which car should we buy? Hello, right? Pediatricians put the number right here, 7. And they do that because the pediatric neurologists know that that's when the connections actually line up. They're coming into their autonomy, but 7. Now, I don't need to know exactly what age a person is when I talk to that family. I just need to know the range, right? 0 to 3, 0 to 6, 14 to 17, 7 to 13. Because in this group, they get some power, some control, some choice, some voice in some situations. And it matters. The context matters. Making a fancy sandwich, cheese and bread, right? So mental age, the higher their mental age, the more power they have. As it goes down, less power. And when we're starting to talk about danger, that's where the next tool comes in. That's the shared decision-making model. And then we have the sliding scale for decision-making. How dangerous is this moment, right? This decision. How dangerous is choosing chocolate or vanilla ice cream? What age can you choose that? 1, 2, unless you have diabetes, then none of those choices is good, right? But, right, so we have this scale. I love having hands. It's great, instead of a microphone. This scale is how dangerous. It slides. Is it driving? Is it choosing ice cream? Is it deciding where to go to lunch? Right, where on this scale? This is the tool that helps families know when to step in. What's the person's mental age today, right, because it can fluctuate, and how dangerous is this situation? Because higher mental age, serious decisions. As it slides down, less and less serious decisions. Okay? So what age do people drive in this state? 16, and they get their license, and they practice at like 15 or something. Do you guys grow anything in this state? Do you have like farms? Well, I don't know. I'm from Los Angeles. Do you grow peaches or something? Georgia peaches? What else? Apples, peaches, pecans. I saw the pecan signs on the freeway. They were everywhere. You're right. Okay. I know, I'm a city girl. Okay, so on farms, what age do kids drive? Did you just say 5? You're nodding. Did you drive at 5? You did? What kind of parent do you have? Seriously, what? Now, I've actually heard this before because I go to a lot of the Midwest where there's a lot of farms. I have learned, because it really did bother me for a while, because I didn't understand how you would let a 5-year-old drive. And somebody finally said to me, Viki, the tractor only goes 2 miles an hour. And it's in the middle of a big field. What are you going to hit? A cow or something? I mean, don't hit cows. I mean, there are farm accidents. You know, I have a friend who lost a sister in a farm accident. I'm not taking this flippantly. But in general, the reason you let a 5-year-old drive, if they can reach the pedals, is they're not going to hurt anything. It's not dangerous. So drive in the middle of Atlanta versus drive on the farm versus ice cream. Do you see what I mean? The context matters. And this is what I teach family caregivers. And the professionals, you can teach this to the people you're working with, and the families use this. You stop. You don't just leap into action. You think, how serious is this? How much mental age would a person need to make that choice? How is my person doing today? Because maybe they're better, worse, they don't feel good, or they're having a good day, right? And you do these slidey things, and then you know, should they be included? Should they have a little bit of a voice, a total voice, no voice, right? You got it. So this can really help because we want to make sure that we're including and empowering that person with dementia as much as we can, but not when it's too dangerous, right? We want them to have dignity and some control, but only in the things they can manage. So now that we know we should step in because the mental age is too low and we know we should do it, we have one more question to ask. And this is a tool that I developed because when we ask the right questions, we get better answers. That's my job, is to help give you the questions to ask because you have to evaluate week, by month, by year, how are things changing? Because especially with Alzheimer's, it changes constantly, and adjust it based on the situation and the person. So here we go. I really need your help on this. The rule is we measure how serious is the danger and what's the chance of it happening. Okay, 0 to 10, 10 is worse. Again, this tool is for people without capacity. This is not a capacity tool. You could still have that conversation with somebody, but this is for you to do either as the professional or the family. So let's do my dad falling. Cause we've talked about this. How serious is my dad falling and hitting his head? 10? Anybody okay with 10? Yeah, 10 is a good number. He's hitting his head. One of these times it's going to go badly. What's the chance of the danger actually happening? It's a 10, right? Because it is happening. Now, one of the reasons I have this column is for those people that either overestimate danger or underestimate, right? There's no problem. Mom only hit 2 cars. Hello? Or everything is in danger. Oh my goodness. My friend with her dad with Alzheimer's, the mom micromanages every single action of the whole day. She's like, don't sit there. I mean, it's a couch. You could sit here or here. I don't know which is more dangerous. It's a couch. Maybe he needs the armrest. Maybe there's a good reason. She's trying to control every little thing. That's going to get annoying even to someone with Alzheimer's. Okay? They will know. All right? Don't micromanage. Pick the important things. This is how we measure what's important. We're triaging danger. Okay, so 10 plus 10, we've agreed. 20 out of 20. So the rule is the higher the number, the faster you need to act. So if my dad is falling, how soon should I deal with this? Now, yesterday, today, right? Okay, so, and I did, and I'll tell you how I handled it. Not very well, but I'll show you what I did in a few minutes. Let's do some others. Showering. How dangerous is not showering? Well, give me a number. Throw a number out. 3, 2, 1, 5. Who said 5? 5? Why do you say 5? I'm just curious, because you might be right.
Oh, you're going to give me the microphone?
That's all right, if you don't mind.
Showering is very important to me. Like, to me, for myself, it would be higher than that.
Okay.
But for an elderly person who maybe, is not doing very much physical activity, then it might not be as important. It's important because you don't want breakdown and all that, but it might not be quite as important to shower necessarily every single day, maybe every other day.
Right, so it adjusts, right? It's like one of these situations that kind of flexes.
Right.
No, so a lot of people tell me it's about dignity and respect, which I completely agree. We shouldn't have stinky people, right? It's a dignity thing. But we want to start thinking about it. How dangerous is it? The question is very specific. And if the person doesn't have a horrible skin condition, it's not really that dangerous. If they have a skin condition that breaks down, like if incontinence or something, oh yeah, it's really much higher than that, okay? So one of the things just to mention right at this moment is we didn't speak about who's the person in danger, right? My dad or somebody that has a skin issue, right? You know what I mean? So we always go back to the person. All of this is very specific. I think in general, not showering needs to be dealt with, but it's maybe a 3. My husband always says to me when he hears this part of the talk, he's like, Viki, tell them the rules, what numbers should do what. And I'm like, no, there are no rules. This is ethics, right? It's gray because I don't want to micromanage it because this is a conversation you're supposed to be having with the person that you're helping, not the person with dementia. If you're the professional in the room, you should be doing it with the family. I'm going to walk for a second. Here we go. I'll be right back. They're videotaping. They're like, come back, come back. I always bring show and tell. Okay, so this is something I do. And I know we sent you these or gave you these. Feel free to share them with anybody that would like them. I laminate my tools, and that way I can have a little toolkit in my satchel, and I bring it out, and I sit with the person. Hey, let's sit together and talk about your mom. What's going on? What are you worried about? And then we measure together, because I need their input. I need to know their worries. And then I also allow, as long as they're in the right range, good enough with me. If they said, it's a 10, I don't think it's a 10, but I don't need a specific. I need a range. Okay, so nice tool. On the back of it is my worksheet that I gave you also in the handout I bring with me. How often is not showering happening? If someone has Alzheimer's, a lot of times they don't want to get in the shower. They don't like the way their skin feels with the water hitting them. They feel scared. They have somebody in the shower with them. How many of you bring strangers into your shower with you? Right? It is kind of odd, right? Hi, nice to meet you. I'm here to help. Let's go take a shower. That's not quite right. I've never said that out loud before. Okay. You never know what pops in my head. Okay. Oh, I just had an accent too. My head, I said. Okay. I think it's the Chick-fil. Okay. Chick-fil-A. Okay. Oh my goodness, I'm turning Southern. Okay. All right. So we take the 3, not that dangerous, plus a 10, it's happening. 13 out of 20, that means we have to deal with it, but it's not a panic, right? I have some time to build a plan. Versus dad is in danger now, I got to save him now, right? How about turning on the stove? How dangerous? High? This is where you got to be careful because I don't want people to assume just because it sounds scary, it is. Sure, that's dangerous, but the person is bedbound. Do you see what I mean? That's why there's combination questions. It's not just one. Yes, it's dangerous. They can't get out of bed. It's a 10. We're not going to deal with it. Right? So again, it gives us a range and a conversation. These tools are about helping us think it through. How about wandering? Right? These 2 sisters, the mom is wandering outside and getting lost. How dangerous? Especially in the snow. We're California. It's not so cold, but still there's traffic. She could get lost. She could get hurt, right? It is very dangerous. And it's happening, 20. That's one of those times where you need to get somebody over there now and keep an eye on her while you build a plan, okay? But what if people will say, my mom wanders. I ask more questions. I don't assume outside. What do you mean? She wanders in the house in a circle over and over and over. See, it's not the same danger. Pick up the rugs, make sure there's no barriers, and let her wander. She needs to do that. That's part of her disease. She feels better. She gets her energy out. She has to go somewhere. A lot of times they feel trapped in their bodies. So as long as it's not dangerous wandering, let them wander. Okay? Taking their medicines wrong, that's a huge one that people underestimate. Oh, it's just a little extra blood pressure medicine. Or none. Or they took the whole set of box all 7 days. Right? Okay, a nice measuring tool. All right, so the higher the number, the faster we need to take action. So here's what happened. I'm taking care of my dad 16 years ago. He's fallen twice or 3 times, and he's in danger. I have to do something. His sister does not want him to come home with a caregiver. They have an agreement. They retired together, and they have to agree who comes into the house. So that's not an option. And at this point, the only option I have is to move him to there's only nursing homes. Back then, we didn't have assisted livings and memory care units. So I picked the best nursing home I could, and I moved him there. He never went back home. He went right to the nursing home because he was in danger. Right? Short term, awesome plan. Short term, it was the right plan because I got him safe, but I never did this step. After you do the quick save him, be careful plan, then you have to say, is this a good plan? Because this is what happened with my dad. Unfortunately, I actually made him have more risk because what did they do 16 years ago to patients in nursing homes? Restrain them, right? They tied him down with one of those posies, and he's in the wheelchair, and they're asking, and my dad still kind of has some capacity. Help, help, I've got to go to the bathroom. Somebody come and untie me, help, help, right? They don't have enough staff. These places are just barely surviving. There's not enough money, and they would get there too late, and of course, he had wet himself. Over and over and over. And what happens, unfortunately, in these type of situations, he became incontinent. Yay, he didn't fall, but he's incontinent now. He doesn't have so little capacity that he doesn't know that he's sitting there like this, that now he's wearing diapers, depends. His dignity, his quality of life, he felt so emasculated, embarrassed. So here I was trying to build a safe plan, and they were trying to do the right thing too. I mean, we don't use restraints now in nursing homes, like most of the time we don't use them. But I want you to understand the symbolism of this. We built a safe plan that made him have dangers. And most of the time when we're making someone safer, we're actually creating some new risks. And so it's kind of a balancing act. It's like, we balance things. That's what we're going to have to be careful of. For just a few minutes, I'm just going to tell you about the actual risks of restraints. And most people say to me, we don't do those anymore. We do them in hospitals, hopefully for a short period of time, but we do. And again, it's the symbolism of it, okay? And the thing that I see in nursing homes is we don't restrain people, we just knock them out, right? And I will tell you the way the law looks at medical restraints is a pill restraint is as dangerous as a physical one, and sometimes more so. But nurses, when you talk to nurses, chemical ones feel better. They don't seem like you're literally tying them down. They feel better, so nurses feel a little more comfortable. But all these dangers exist. Falls, strangulations, pressure sores. Anytime you're immobile, loss of muscle tone. You actually get weaker, so you're now a higher fall risk. The more you keep that person down, now when I stand up, I tip over. Incontinence, constipation, infection. I don't know if you've ever read the studies where they looked at people that got put into the nursing home with tying down. The first couple days, they're like this. Help! Get me out of this! Get me out of this! After 2 or 3 days, this is what they are. They've given up. Hopelessness, helplessness, disempowered. They stop trying. They don't want to get better. A lot of the psychological damage is because of what we're doing to keep them safe. right? So we're going to keep an eye on this. We also have sleep disturbances, all sorts of emotional costs, loss of hope, feelings of being punished, diminished self-care. The staff actually looks down on them. And so I didn't know this stuff back then. I know it now. Luckily, the healthcare system knows it now. I don't know if you know that, like when somebody is tied down in a hospital, they sometimes die by fire. Have you ever heard this? The first time I read this was part of a Joint Commission report, is that I thought the hospital catches on fire and you can't get them out fast enough. People that smoke, that have their cigarettes in the room with them, even though they're tied down, they'll do anything they can to get to their cigarettes and their matches, and they'll either try to light their matches to smoke and drop it on their lap, or they try to burn their restraints off. See, I tell you this not about restraints, but that you need to learn more. When you're building a safety plan, when you're building a let's keep mom out of danger plan, you need to talk to experts. You got to do more research. When you're now going to impose some restrictions on a person, be careful, be wise. There are so many ways that this could have been solved. If I could have gone back in time, well, the first thing is I now know that I actually have a list of 80 ways to keep people out of restraints, to keep people safe. If you want it, I'll email it to you, no problem. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. Anytime you're building a plan for another person who's vulnerable, whether it's a plan to bring them joy and happiness or a plan to keep them safe, you try a plan, and the rule is you check, is it working? And then you try something else, and then you try something else, right? With fall reduction, my dad could have gone to physical therapy. He liked exercising. He could have gotten stronger. Maybe his medications could have been adjusted. There are so many solutions out there. So when you're worried this person isn't safe, build a quick plan to keep them safe if it's an emergency, and then go back and make a new, better plan. That's what I didn't do. For 6 months, he lived there. And I realized it was wrong, but I didn't have knowledge because I didn't ask experts, because I was the most arrogant caregiver you've ever met. I thought I knew it all. I thought I could do it all. Nobody could do it as well as me. Anyone relate? Yeah, we are the best caregivers, right? Foolish, because somebody else had this wisdom, right? Ask for help. Now I ask everybody. Okay, so there's no one-size-fits-all solution. Keep trying. Find the right thing. So now when we're thinking about building this plan, we want to build a plan that's going to keep him safe, but also not destroy his quality of life, right? Because both of those are important. Because a lot of people will tell me that a life without danger is a life without meaning. My brother, that loves to do dangerous things, he would jump out of planes, he'd ski down the Black Diamond slopes. That's joy to him. I'm not a high-risk person. That's not joy to me. But there has to be life and experience. I will tell you that a lot of times a family will say, if she falls, she falls. She wouldn't mind. She would hate being restricted. But it's personal, all right? So here's the question that's probably my most important question I ask myself when I'm making decisions for another person, that I teach families, I teach doctors, I teach everyone this question. It's right here. What will it feel like and be like? And this is how I say it. What will it feel like and be like for Bob to experience this decision? What will it feel like and be like for Bob to live in this assisted living? To go through this surgery? To have these changes in his life? Because in ethics, we talk benefits and risks, right? Isn't that what the doctor says to you? We have risks, we have benefits. Risks and benefits. This is when I need a third hand. We have risks, we have benefits, but the one that I actually care the most about, because I worry about that person, is the burdens. And this is what we write about in bioethics literature. What is the burden of this choice that we're making for another person? Right? Because you are here because you are now the decision makers for someone else. What is the burden? What's it going to feel like to implement this plan? Right? It's not, should I step in? If the person is low enough and the danger is high enough, you must. You might need to write that down. I must step in. I don't just should, I must. Because you're the only person who can keep them safe. But can you do it in a way that doesn't destroy their joy and their comfort? So something that I'm always trying to balance is, how can I minimize their fear, anxiety, pain, increase their joy and comfort and quality? Less miserable, more joy. And I can do that, but I have to do it thoughtfully. I can't just say, oh, it's the easy plan. I'm going to have to think about it. So when it was time to move my dad, oh, cool, that's there. Okay. I used a lot of these questions. Luckily for me, I needed to move my dad into a better place because I realized this plan is not working. Finally, 6 months, how embarrassing. I will tell you it's the thing that I regret the most, that I did not do my due diligence back in that time period. I didn't ask questions. I didn't see the dangers. That's what I wish I could go back and fix. I accept that. We all make our mistakes as caregivers, but I wish I could change it. So what I needed to do was move him to a place that would be better for him. And what I brought you today is a worksheet. And you probably have it in your handout. I'm not going to read you all these questions. I'm just going to point out a couple of them. When we're thinking about what are we doing, how are we going to build a good long-term plan, are we trying to create an unrealistic, no danger zone that's really impossible? Does anyone work at like an assisted living, nursing home kind of place? Right? Don't you have all these regulations? Like you can't have any falls, otherwise the state will come in and report you, and you can't do that. And we start becoming so restrictive. Here's the thing. We can build a safer plan. We never can build a safe plan. All we can do is safer because stuff still happens. Because even if you're trying to be safer here, other stuff happens. So sometimes we have to address that. I know the regulations want us to do all this, but that's not where we need to start from. We need to figure out what will work for this person, and guess what? It will work under the regulations because then they won't fall or they won't be in danger. So another one that I really like, are we afraid of the actual risk or are we afraid of the legal liability of the risk? Right? Because a lot of times we put all sorts of things into action and it's like, why are we doing all these? Oh, we don't want to get sued. Now, I know there are lawyers in the audience. Hi, lawyers. Of course, the law is important. I always remind physicians, you must follow the law. They don't usually know the laws in their state, but you must follow the law. And I'm not saying law isn't important, but it's not the only measure. We have to think about the person experiencing this regulation. Are these acceptable risks? The language we usually use is, what is the least restrictive option? In other words, let's do the bare minimum that keeps them safer, but doesn't harm them too much. What are the known burdens? Emotional, physical, loss of control, loss of dignity. What will it feel like and be like? How do we include and empower the person? So with my dad, what I needed to do was I did need to move him to a new place. And thank goodness, a new place opened up in town. One of those assisted livings with a memory care unit, right? That we now have. We're so used. Do you guys have them here? Right? Because you're a big enough city. Oh, thank goodness, because they are so much better at managing dementia. I'm not good at managing dementia. I can't care for him at home. Any of you that think you can keep the person at home forever, we are not dementia experts. I'm a decision-making expert. I am not a dementia expert. So there are times when we have to say, I need your help. I can't do it 24/7. And that's okay. It really is. And it's good for the person. So it was nice because at this point, nice new place opening up. My aunt decided she didn't want to live alone anymore. She has MS. She's getting weaker. Smart lady, but her body isn't good. She's going to move into the assisted living side. My dad's going to live in the dementia side, but they can have lunch together. They can see each other because they're best buddies. And so we went on the tour, right? Have you ever been on the tour? Anybody here the tour lady? Nobody? I like tour ladies. Our tour lady was Lisa. She was tall and beautiful, and my dad loved her. Yeah. So we went on the tour. I took both of them on the tour. I'm pushing my dad. She's pushing Lisa. All is well. We decide that this is a good place for them. And so I have a week to figure out how to get them both moved, right? And so my aunt's figuring out what she wants to take, and then I'm going to, take care of closing up her house and take care of all those things. And for my dad, at this point, I knew my tools. I was now doing bioethics, and I'm like, he's mentally 5 or 7. That doesn't mean he can't be involved a little bit. So I wanted to figure out, what could I do to help include him? What could I do to make him feel like a part of this? Because I want him to be comfortable. And the reason I knew about this is because I used to do some consulting at a children's hospital. And I know that at a children's hospital, for kids that have low functioning, we actually will take them down to show them the machines, like the x-ray machine or the MRI, because they're scared. I don't want to go. And then we take them on a tour. See? And then you're going to lay there. Oh, that's not scary. So what you can do when you have someone that has a cognitive issue and you do have to move them, take them on some extra tours. Maybe take pictures while you're there of them happy, right? Take pictures of the things that are good. And then review that with them. Do some things to get them comfortable. So I called my dad, and Dad, let's go and see Lisa again. Okay, right? He remembered Lisa. It's amazing how that works. He was very delightful and charming. So we went on a tour again, and this time the tour wasn't to see the whole place. It was to choose his room. Right? It's a new place. There were 3 rooms available in the dementia side where he would be moving. And I said, Dad, wait a sec. Did I say, Dad, do you want to move here? What do you think? Why no? That sounds like I should respect my dad. I should just ask him what he wants to do, right? You're all muttering because you're like, no, Viki, because what's he going to say? If he says no, I'm stuck, right? You don't ask a question you can't respect. See, that's why we have our tools. What you do is you think to yourself, would I ask someone who's 7 where would be the right place for them to live? Is this a good place? Do they have good food? Can we afford this? Do 7-year-olds make that level of decision? No. See, you test it in your own head, which is great. So, of course, I'm not going to say, Dad, do you want to go? I said, Dad, you're going to move here. Yay. Let's go choose your room. So I picked him up. We went and saw Lisa. She's like, hey, here's the keys. Just go on back. You've seen the rooms. Show your dad, see what he thinks. So we went in there. I showed him this room and that room. And I said, Dad, what room do you want? It is your decision. Do you hear how powerful that is? He has a voice. He has some control. He's mentally really low, but he can choose the room. Why? It doesn't matter. It's in the right part of the building. It's in the right building. Everything is good. Pick your room. I'd let him pick anything I could that was at his level. He's like, Viki, can I have that one? I'm like, of course, Dad, it's your decision. And every day for the rest of that week before the move, I'd call him and say, how you doing, Dad? How's everything? I got the best room. I got the best room every day. He wasn't even thinking about the fact he was moving. He was so focused on his part of it. This is what I call and I didn't call it that, it's what it is called. It's called the assent tool. It also comes from Pediatric Ethics. It's mostly used in that 7 to 13 range when we want that person to be included, They're not probably the final decision maker, but we want them to be included, okay? Let me ask you, we do need to move my dad. We have to bring some of his stuff from home because at assisted livings you can bring your own stuff. Who remembered to bring his bathtub chair? Dad or me? Me? Raise your hand if you think it was me. Raise your hand if you think it was my dad. Okay? Let's test it, right? We run this in our head. Would a 7-year-old say, Viki, make sure you bring my bathtub stool because I certainly don't want to fall. No. 7, no. Maybe 12, right? No way. He's not thinking of danger. That's over here. That's falling. That's not in his area. So I brought it. I didn't even ask him. I'm bringing it. I did ask him, Dad, you need new sheets for this place because you can't have this size bed. You need to have a smaller bed. And I could have just said, I'll just buy him for you because I know his favorite color is blue because that's what we do. We're in a hurry. Tick-tock, go, go, go. I got to get it done. Instead, I said, Dad, I have to get new sheets and a new blanket for you. What would you like? And he said, Viki, can I have a Mickey Mouse comforter? I had no idea my dad even liked Mickey Mouse. Now, was it his grown-up self, right? Or is it his 7-year-old self, right? I don't care. If that's going to bring him joy, I said, you bet. I will go find you a Mickey Mouse comforter. And I did. Can you imagine how many mornings he woke up and every time he went to bed at night, he had Mickey Mouse there? See, I got him a safe plan. I got him to the right place with the right nurses, with the right care. They're taking care of his meds. I made all these high-level decisions serious because I have the mental age. I included and empowered him in every way possible on all the little stuff. See what happens? Now all of a sudden he's not something that things are being done to him. He has a voice, but only where it's safe. Okay? Now I was teaching this tool to, let me stop in just a second. I've actually written it out for you, but I do want to mention, just a second, make sure I don't need something else. I do want to mention that you can talk this through. You want to evaluate their mental age. You need to leave more time. This is not a fast conversation. You're probably not having this conversation 0 to 6. This is 7 to 13. Use developmentally appropriate language. You don't say, well, the efficacy of this would be, what? It'll help you, right? And you say it from their perspective. I'm not going to say, I'm going to drive you and I'm going to do this. What will it feel like for him? What's it going to feel like for him to live there that first day and it might be scary? What's it going to feel like to have to meet all these new people? Right? So I'm going to change that conversation. So I was teaching this tool, and in the audience were a group of people that also have kids that have autism. And now they have grown-up kids. They call them kids. I don't call them kids, but they call them their kids. And I remember the lady that was sitting right over here. She does this. I'm talking, and I hear her go, oh, no. And I'm like, are you okay? She's like, oh, no. I'm like, what's wrong? She goes, I wish I'd known this yesterday. I go, why? What happened? She said, Viki, I made a huge mistake. I asked my son, her son's about 23 years old, mentally 8, right? She asked her son, do you want bacon or sausage for breakfast? Is that a decision an 8-year-old can make? Yeah, right? I mean, it's not healthy. Neither one is healthy. Neither one is easy to prepare, right? They're kind of neutral in that way, bacon or sausage. She said, I asked him bacon or sausage, and he, who doesn't say a lot, actually said, bacon. And then she said, nah, I think I'll cook sausage. You feel it? Yeah. She knew it. That's what she got it. Don't ask questions you can't honor the answer. Don't give choices. This is where a lot of us falter. We offer a choice. Do you want to go to the doctor? No, right? Versus, let's go to the doctor and we'll stop and get an ice cream cone at the end, right? Or after we go to the doctor, do you want to get ice cream or a coffee, right? You give them a choice they can manage, but we're going to the doctor. And then she says, what do I do? I said, you go home and apologize. Because even someone that has a cognitive impairment knows when they've been disrespected. They know. They know that you took away their choice. And the reason they know this, I don't know if Dr. Rabin's mentioned this, there's been a lot of research, and it was so cool. Someone wrote an article a couple weeks ago about this in the national news about emotional memory. Do you know much about this? This was a study that was done. I know this lady, Dr. Annette Swain. I've met her out at UCLA. Really wonderful lady. She explained to me how they did this research. They did it with a group of people that had Alzheimer's, not so much that they couldn't participate, but they could still interact. And they put 2 rooms of individuals with Alzheimer's, room 1, room 2. They took a picture of a man's face, not happy, not sad, just maybe a 25-year-old like that, okay? They took the picture over here and they said, do you know this man? What'd they say? No. Have you ever seen him before, this picture? No. And then they proceeded to tell you this most horrible story. This man is the worst person you'll ever meet. He killed his mother. And they just told a horrible, horrible story. Okay? Took the same picture over here. Do you know this man? Have you ever seen this picture? No. This is the best man you'll ever meet. He takes care of his grandmother. He saved people on the battlefield. He is the greatest person you'll ever meet. That was it. 6 hours later and 24 hours later, they went in and talked to them. Do you know this man? No, of course. They don't have that kind of memory. Have you seen this? No. I don't like him. He's scary. They had a visceral reaction. 6 hours later and 24 hours later. I don't like him. Over here, guess what? Do you know him? No. He seems nice. With Alzheimer's in particular, that part of the brain that remembers how it feels is still in there. They can remember how it felt 6 to 24 hours later. Happy feelings lasted all that time. Unhappy feelings lasted even longer. Which is important for us to say to people when we are caring for someone. I know if I could go back in time with my mom, I did not always take care of her as kindly as I should have. I was very overwhelmed. I was young. She was difficult, right? And I was pretty good, but I wasn't always patient and kind. And that lingers. 6 to 24 hours later, they know how it felt. They don't remember that their husband visited. They don't remember he came, but they remember something happened and it felt good. I share this with families that are devoted because after a while it's like, why do I even go? She doesn't even know me. What's the point? She knows a loving heart. She knows that somebody stroked her hair, put lotion on her hands, sang her favorite song. They know something good happened. And I know this because the other day I was teaching this and this person in the front, she's like, Viki, this answers everything. I'm like, what? She said, Viki, she and her sister, they both alternate. One goes in the morning to see mom with the Alzheimer's. The other one goes in the evening. So that way they see her twice a day. She says, sometimes I get there in the evening and mom is just not feeling right. And she says, I call my sister and say, hey, mom doesn't seem right today. How was she when you were there? Oh, I didn't go. That good feeling didn't linger, right? So stagger your visits, right? Don't everyone go the same day. We want that good feeling to last as much as the time is possible. We want to minimize things that make them feel worse. That's what we have power over. We build a plan when we come back to danger. Yes, we have to keep them safe, but don't decrease so much joy that they don't feel good Or if you really have to bring down their power and their abilities and things and control their behaviors, how can you increase their joy? Yes, they can't drive anymore, but they could have all this. That's the trick. As you decrease their privileges, you increase their joy some other way. Okay? Let's see. I love this. It reminds me to be kind to people. So, we have just a couple more minutes. I just want to mention this. We'll do this after the break. We're going to, I can do this before we talk about driving, because driving is the big one. Anybody here feel guilty? Do you still feel guilty about something you did a long time ago? I know, you wouldn't believe how many people say, 10 years ago, and they still feel bad. All right, so here's how I talk to people about guilt. Does anybody have something they feel guilty about that you're willing to share? Anybody? Yes, sir. Can you share it just briefly? Putting your wife in a home. Okay? So I'm going to role model the rules. For those of you that are professionals, we're going to do it together. Oh, I shouldn't have touched that. Sorry, tech people. I got a little crazy. There we go. All right. So when you made the decision and moved her to a home, did you actually do something wrong, or did it just feel bad?
I don't think I did anything wrong. I was doing what I thought was best for her.
Right, but it still felt bad. So he just answered, I didn't really do anything wrong. It really was the best answer. I just feel bad. So I will tell you that I would like you to never say the word guilt about that action again. Because when we do something actually wrong, we should feel guilty. I really hurt my friend's feelings. I should feel guilty. That's appropriate. But when you didn't really do something wrong, you just feel badly, we do not have a word for that in English. That's the problem. And when it hits us in our same gut, we still feel, we feel sick to our stomach. We don't have a word that says, I wish it were different. I regret that I had to. All that wishing. That's not guilt. You can say, I wish it were different. I regret that it got to that point. I wish I could have kept her home forever. I'm not guilty. I didn't do anything wrong. Do you hear the difference? So I don't know if that comforts you, but for a lot of people it does, because you're always still going to feel badly, because we love our people. Well, not everyone loves their person, but, right? Come on, we know that. But you're not guilty. Guilty is when you've done something bad. You did nothing wrong, okay? Hopefully that can lift some of that pressure off of you, all right? It's a wonderful way to talk that through with people. For those of you who are going to have that conversation as the social worker, the professional, be careful, because if he had said to me, yes, I did something wrong, that's when I would have needed to say, okay, can we fix it? Is there something we can do to repair it? If not, don't do it again. Right? Like people always ask me this one, I buried her and she wanted to be cremated. I get that one all the time, whatever one it is. And it's like, I say, well, did you actually do something wrong? Yes, she always wanted this. I go, can we fix it? That's kind of hard, especially if they're cremated. But don't do it again. Don't disrespect people's wishes the best we can, okay? Thank you, guys. I think we're going to have a break. David has some announcements, and I'll come back and finish up with you guys. Thank you so much.